ARPA, forget about all those. Those numbers are going to be put into two statements. And then there's going to be a bridge between the fund statements, which are like your budgeted statements, and these. So there's just a couple of statements that get added to these. What I like to do about this statement in particular, it has a couple things that you're not going to see anywhere else. It has long-term assets and it has long-term liabilities. So if you start looking down right before the first subtotal, there's the depreciable assets, the net of accumulation. Before that, there's construction in progress, and there's land. So the significant of the $19 million, a good share of it is all tied up in capital assets. We're in with the biggest loan on the books right now is still the refinance of this building when this was built. So what you did in 2023 to add to this, you added almost $900,000 in road improvements. Half of that was paid for by a developer for the Retreat subdivision. $205,000 was added for a wheel loader, and $122,000 for a truck deposit. That truck deposit is part of the construction in progress. The truck has not been delivered yet, so that's in there as a down payment. Overall, you added $1.2 million in new capital assets. Under liabilities, if you go down a little bit farther, you can see there a non-current portion of long-term obligations, $2.9 million. Right above that is $439,000. That's all your long-term debt. The $439,000 is what's going to be paid off this year. During the year, you borrowed $250,000 for roads. You paid off $374,000 of existing debt. There's 7 notes on the books right now. The big one, like I said, is for this building. It's still sitting at $2.3 million. It was financed in 2022 for 2%, I believe. So that is what I wanted to show you on this page. Then if you could, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, then if you could go over to page 6. Now we're into the funds. So you can see them there. So after we get a good trial balance and put all the numbers together in the appropriate funds, I have to go through calculations and say, okay, the general fund has $5.9 million in assets. They have $1.2 million in liabilities. And I look at ARPA fund, debt service, and all the other funds that are on the books. And I say, there's a calculation that GASB says, in order for it to get its own column or to be a major fund, it has to be 5% greater of the total of this, or 10% greater of that. Well, obviously the general fund of the total assets, $5.9 million, and if you look at the far right column, the total for the entire town is 6.7. The general fund is always going to be major. The ARPA fund is there, and debt service, and then you have your the other governmental funds are your non-major, and it just turns out that this year there's just one, and it's the impact fee fund. So but I would like to just point out a couple things in here, because I'm going to focus on the general fund. But if you look in the second column down towards liabilities, there's $108,000 sitting there. That is the unspent part of ARPA. So you had received over $900,000 over a 2-year period in ARPA grants. That gets recorded as revenue when you spend it. So there's $108,000 that has yet to be spent. My understanding is that has to be obligated by the end of this year for ARPA? Yes. And it has to be actually spent by 2026. Right? It's already spent. Okay, so that's not an issue. So, but anyways, that's what it was at the end of the year. Go down a little bit farther, start getting into the fund balance. Okay, so the fourth column, that $96,000 is in the non-major funds, but it's the impact fee. That's what's accumulated in impact fees. And there again, there's state statutes that say you collect an impact fee, you have to spend it within 7 years or you got to give it back. Well, what's sitting in there right now has been accumulated since 2020, so you're still in good shape and you still have a couple years left to spend that money, but there are certain things as far as park capital improvements that you can spend the money on. So it would be good to start thinking about those.
What's the accounting method for the funds to be spent? Is it FIFO, right? First in, first out, or what's the, like how they got to account for if we collected 10,000 of impact fees in 2000, so that has to be spent by 2026 or whatever.
I would say FIFO. Whatever you collected earliest, spend first.
But that's all you're accounting for the years that they're
I'm not,
collected.
I'm just saying this is what's accumulated.
Gotcha.
But if I was gonna make an argument to the state and they came back and said, you really have to refund this, no, we spent the money that we collected in 2020. So, yeah,
All right.
it's a good question.
Yeah, we track the money that comes in, whatever we spend, we assume from the last ones, and then we move forward. So 2020 is, from that point on, is where the 96,000 is, or what the balance is.
Gotcha.
Couple other things about the ARPA fund. It's the second column there. It's 19,000 in fund balance. Like I said, the grant money gets recorded as expenditures occur. The 19,000 is interest that has been earned. That is a true revenue, and so it's sitting in fund balance for that fund. The other things about ARPA for the year, and now you're saying the money's gone, or it will be. In 2023, 122,000 of ARPA money was spent for a truck chassis, 31,000 for a plow, and 205,000 for a John Deere wheel loader. So some heavy-duty expenditures ARPA paid for. Okay, fund balance, first column, general fund. GASB said that there should be 5 categories for fund balance. You don't have the middle one, which would be committed. It goes from most restrictive to least restrictive. Obviously, unassigned means spend it for whatever you need it for. The non-spendable is for money that's already gone. So you paid your January health insurance premium in December. It's going to turn up in 2024 as an expenditure, but as far as these statements are going, it's not. It shows as a prepaid. The same thing with your consumable inventory, and a lot of that is salt, okay, that you had in your salt shed. And again, that's on your property. You haven't used it yet. It'll be used this year. I'm sure that's gone too, long gone. But anyway, so that 43,000 of fund balance is already spoken for and it's gone. Restricted is, again, a higher authority. It's from outside of the town board's control. So impact fees, the 96,000 shows as restricted because it's state statutes. The assigned now, okay, so there's the committed that if you had made a legal document, an ordinance or something like that, saying we intend to spend this amount of money for that, it would show as committed because you actually have a document that you paid for. And to uncommit, you'd have to go through an uncommit and go through the same steps. There is nothing like that here. You do have assignments, though, and those are monies that you said we're going to put in certain buckets to spend for this. Instead of having to borrow for every major item that comes up, we are going to save towards that and put it away. And I know during budget time you kind of think that's a different fund, but it's really not. It's the replacement fund. So you've got these categories of things. You got 150,000 set aside for future revaluation. There's money for DPW trucks there, and over 100,000 for roads and culverts, and 196,000 for facilities. The nice thing about the assignments is you can come up at the next board meeting and say, you know, we really don't need that 196 for facilities, but we really do need it for this, because we weren't planning on having to spend it on that. And so that simple board action can move money between assigned funds. You don't need an attorney, you don't need another document, simply a board motion to move money around. And often you do at budget time, right? You go in and you're planning things and you figure out what are we going to do? Are we going to add more money to certain buckets or repurpose things? So anyways, there's about $500,000 sitting in there. The unassigned amount, a year ago, that was 1.5 million, so it grew by over $200,000. Overall, the total fund balance a year ago was $2,008,000, so that grew by $252,000. So your general fund's in very, very good shape. Any questions about this? Okay, I think the last page I'm going to go through is page 10. And say, how did the general fund grow? So you got a comparison of the budgets. For these purposes, I ignore the middle column, the column that says final, the second column. I compare things, columns 1 and columns 3, and I come up with my own numbers for the far right. I mean, you've amended the budget, so if the actuals are what the amended budget is, then what good is it, right? So, the major ones are in intergovernmental revenues. You had a budget of 431,000. You took in 454,000, and you had a couple things going on here. You had unbudgeted recycling aids of $8,000 that came in. You had an extra $10,000 of fire insurance dues that came in. Fire insurance dues, they came in, but they went out under public safety. You got paid over to Lake Country Fire. The next one, charges for services, $15,000 under budget. And there were certain things, professional fee chargebacks, sale of highway materials, culverts, didn't come in as much as had been expected. And then you hit on the next item, interest. $39,000 budget, and you took in over $200,000 in general fund. A favorable variance of $167,000. So you ask, how did our fund balance grow? Interest is almost half of it, half the reason. And I actually tracked the state investment pool interest each month, and the average rate that the town was earning in 2022 on the pool money was 1.6%. For 2023, it was over 5%. It's tripled. And the other thing that Dan did 12 months earlier is he talked to the county and said, we want our money going directly into the pool. So when you're paying out tax collections, we're not going to do this transfer twice kind of thing. Send it right there so you're earning money right away on that. For instance, in December, this past December, you earned $20,000 of interest alone in 1 month, and that was tax collection money. Miscellaneous, $12,000 to the good. There we had booked an estimated payable at the end of '22, and it turned out that we never ended up paying anybody, not being felt it wasn't, the town was not going to be liable for it, so we wrote it off as miscellaneous revenue. The transfers in, so there was no budget here. This is money coming from ARPA. You took in $380,000, and I already told you what that was paid, being used for. So the money is in the ARPA fund. ARPA fund transfers over general fund, and general fund actually makes the expenditure. So, and you're going to see down below the last line, capital outlays. It's the same thing, so it's offset. So you had extra 380 of revenues, but you also had extra $380,000 of expenditures that hadn't been planned. Going down to the schedule below that, general government, $671,000 was the budget, $640,000 was spent. Legal fees were $28,000 under budget. A few lines below that, highway and transportation, a budget of 1.3, spent $1,159,000, $146,000 to the good. Road repairs were under budget by $80,000. Snow plowing was under budget by $23,000, and part-time wages and overtime for DPW was under by $15,000. And they have a myriad of other accounts too that make up that, but those were the main ones. Parks and Recreation was under budget by $13,000. There had been a plan to spend $10,000 of park donation funds to redo the infield at the Commons, and that didn't happen. I guess, talking to Dan, that's supposed to happen this year. So I could have just saved the last 15 minutes to said it's because your highway was under and your interest earnings were crazy. But that's how you ended up with your fund balance growing. So if you go up just a little bit. So the original budget, you had $2,008,000, and if you look at the bottom of the first column, they had a deficit budget, so you're coming in at $1.9 million. What actually happened is you have the same starting point of the $2,008,000, and the bottom of the third column, you actually had to grow to $2.2 million, and the turnaround was the $360,000. So it was a good year. You're in good position. Any questions about that at all? Again, these are all things that came across here and got approved, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And you're getting monthly statements out of Sage, so. We also, like I said, we also give a letter to the board about our findings and other comments that we're required to report to the board. Most of it's cookbook. Part of it, I'm not going to go into this in detail. It's mostly repeated year after year, but you have 3 people in the office, so you're not GM, you can't divvy up. Accounts payable does only this, so you have people doing multiple tasks. So it's just, the buck stops with you guys to make sure that you're keeping an eye on things, and if things don't look right, make sure you understand the vendors that are getting paid, seeing that things that clear the bank are the ones that you've approved, those kind of things. The one specific point that I had raised over a couple year period, I believe, was that the tax roll hadn't balanced. And you're talking about I forget what it was. It was $25 million of tax rolls, and most of it's the schools. But you're handling a lot of money, especially for other people. And by the time the county settles with the town in August, everything should go to zero. The only thing that would be left to your responsibility is collecting delinquent personal property taxes, and those are insignificant. Well, a couple years, it had not gone to zero. And and you try to find differences, you can understand how many cash receipts there were for tax collections. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes. You're just hunting and pecking, and we couldn't get the tax roll balanced. Last year we did. So, yeah. So any questions?
Thank you for your service. You
Thank
will be
you.
missed.
Yeah, I will miss too. I'm not gonna miss the work, but I definitely miss I will definitely miss the people. I've known Tim for how many years? 30 years. Yeah, long, long time. We've worked together. So, yeah, the people have been really, really good, and the boards have been wonderful to work with. Like I said, you've got great staff working for you. So,
I just have a quick clarification. You said we should make sure that, like, when we approve something, and to make sure that, like, what that payment's for, that the check's actually cut to that vendor. Great point. I mean, but, like, we approve it, but, I mean, then we don't see it again. So that's where we use Dan or Karen, right? So when you're saying that, you mean more it's our staff, not us.
I do mean you.
Okay, so we
We
should-
have clients where there is a designated board member. Getting somebody to volunteer for doing these double checks is a problem, okay? But we do have clients where somebody on the board, as a double check, will go in, and you can go in online. You can go in on Saturday morning at 2 o'clock and log in.
Okay.
And you can see the checks that have cleared. And so we have clients where a board member does that. They have a check register that they've approved and signed off on, and they will, not 100%, not anywhere near 100%, but Dan won't know that. He doesn't know what you're checking. It's a fear of being caught kind of deal. And I'm not saying that you'd ever find anything. But, so they will take that on, and I would say, if I was recommending it, I'd say, look for every check over $1,000. Make sure those are legitimate, that what you approved, the payee, is the same one that cleared the bank. And then you don't want him to think it's $1,000, because then, if it was me, I'd just start writing things for $999. But pick a selection of lower checks on a random basis every month, and just, so we do have clients that are doing that. They have, but again, it's finding a board member who would be willing to take that on. It's a key step. The most interesting classes I have ever went, and most of them are snorers. They really are. It puts you to sleep. But when they started talking about fraud and what people have done to steal money, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, the amounts won't change. It'd still be the same amount. They just white out the payee, and they put their own name in there, and they're just,
The whole documentary about the horse lady in Illinois.
yeah, right. And it's, a lot of times, it's the person that you trust. You say, well, she's been my bookkeeper for 30 years. She has the keys to all the safes, and you never think. But the
was
problem
giving
is
herself a
that
raise
her
for
husband
30
got
years.
sick, and she needed an extra $100, and all of a sudden, nobody caught that $100, and her husband still hasn't gone back to work. So you hear those stories and how they just snowball, and she thinks she's going to repay it, and obviously, and maybe sometimes they do. I don't know, but yes, that's a great question, and that would, if you could implement something like that. And then the board has to be diligent about that, because the board changes.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you clarified that. Thank you.
So I'm glad you asked.
I mean, it's a growing problem, so. Fraud.
Absolutely is.
Yeah.
I'm only shocked at those youth sports stories.
They're like
Yeah.
that, and like the like churches.
Yeah.
Like
Very
those are where
sad.
you always hear.
I had a client, and I'm not going to name names, but they had 2 lakes in their municipality. And they have a little cash box that if you're going to put your boat in the water, you have to drop like $5 or $1, whatever it is, into there. And the community would send over one of their police officers or a DPW guy to empty the box every day and then bring it in. Well, we were having these discussions about brainstorm, because that obviously, it's cash, which is always a problem. And what possible checks and balances could you have for something like that? And the clerk took it upon herself to start photocopying like a dollar bill, going down there and dropping it in, and then making sure that, because you see the number on it, making sure that got returned the next day. And she wasn't out there to out anybody. That was the key. They took it personally, and then and I said, just tell them the auditor told, and then I can take the blame for that stuff. And their boat ramp fees tripled the next year.
Oh, my.
Yeah, they weren't out to accuse anybody or make headlines or get people fired. It was just a check and balance. But the clerk had to take that on herself.
Yep.
And that's the place to start with these is, do we handle cash? So, thank you very, very much. I have enjoyed working for the town of Delafield. I could tell you stories from the old building where we started, where I'd be in there Saturday morning, and all of a sudden I'd look down and all my cords were in water, like this. And I thought I was gonna die. And I would just yank and pray and live. This building is beautiful. So,
Wow.
Dan, thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
The rest of the department reports are attached. If there are any questions, we can talk about them. If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
Ed, do you want to do a motion to approve
I was
the
second.
annual?
Oh, yeah, I'd look for a motion to approve the annual audit that was just presented. Motion is second to approve the audit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Look for a motion to adjourn the annual meeting. Motion and a second to adjourn the annual meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. I'm going to call to order the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisor meeting for Tuesday, April 16th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Green?
Supervisor Mahoney Ogden,
Present?
Supervisor Miller,
Present.
Supervisor Wolfley,
Present.
Supervisor Michaels,
Present.
Chairman Kranek.
Present.
Thank you.
Next item, citizens' comments. Public comments from citizens regarding items on or not on the agenda. The board may not engage in discussion with the citizens making the comments. Individual presentations are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens shall follow the rules set forth in section 2.04, paren 1, paren D of the town code. Are there any citizens' comments? Hearing none, move to item 5, the approval of the March 26, 2024 board minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to table the approval of those minutes. I wasn't present in the last meeting. So after reading the minutes from the last meeting on March 26th, I see there was a motion by Supervisor Mahoney Ogden to approve the January 23rd, 2024 minutes, with changes submitted to the administrator. I am working on reviewing those minutes from the January meeting. I'm halfway done, and I'd like to submit my findings by May 7th, 1 week before our next town board meeting, for the board to review.
Hold on, I'm trying to, you want to review which board meeting?
The
minutes?
January 23rd town board meeting minutes.
Those have been
Yeah, those
approved.
January 23rd board meetings are approved. The item on the agenda is the approval of the March 26th, or board minutes.
I'm not ready to approve the minutes from the last meeting we had. I was not present, so.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess there's a motion, and there would need to be a second to
I
proceed.
second the motion only because there was conversation about it. We were split about how to handle the minutes. I know I compromised because I thought it was better to get them approved with some comments versus just being a motion, emotion minutes. I don't know if this is the place to do it, but I see what you're saying, and I think I mentioned even then that you were one of the ones looking at them, but
Would you like to second my motion?
I would second
Yeah,
your
there's
motion.
a motion and a second on the table, on the table to table the approval of the March 26 board minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
The motion fails 3-2.
Supervisor,
So if I submit any
yeah,
findings from the January meeting
so the
minutes,
Supervisor,
you guys are not going to bother looking into my findings at all?
well,
that
my clarification for you is that the January minutes that you would like to revise have already been approved. The minutes before us right now are the March 26th minutes. So this is a meeting that did not deal with the Thomas Farm or contain much controversy. So I would, these minutes don't,
Well, the minutes from the January meeting do have a lot of contents related to the Thomas Farm property
But those aren't on the
development.
agenda.
I understand that, but the minutes from the last meeting in March does mention those minutes from the January meeting.
Yeah,
Which I'm not
so-
okay with approving those minutes today for the March meeting, so this is where I stand.
yeah, no, that's fine. So the action we took at the March 26th meeting was to approve the minutes from the January meeting that you're asking about. So those minutes are approved. Certainly,
For approved, does that mean, because I know, Steve, you had mentioned that at one point we approved them conditionally upon changes, and then there was discussion about that. So does it, once they're approved?
yeah,
again,
my
they can never
suggestion
get-
was not adopted, and the motion was not to do any sort of conditional approval. So the January minutes have been approved. What's before us now is the March 26th minutes. So I just wanted you to know that's why I didn't support your motion.
I will have a discussion with our chairman. We're good.
Yeah,
So the item on the agenda is to approve the March 26 town board minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve March 26th town board minutes.
I'll second.
There's a motion, and a second on the table to approve the March 26 town board minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
Opposed?
No, I.
Opposed.
I will say opposed. Only, I recognize that we're approving the minutes. I still think that we should.
So the minutes are approved 3-2. Okay. Next item would be actions on vouchers submitted for payment. There are no but actions to amend the 2023-2024 budget. So I'd look for a motion on accounts payable and payroll.
Motion to approve payments of checks 67479 through 67487 and checks 67494 through 67599 in the amount of $668,175.27. And motion to approve payrolls dated April 12th of 2024 in the amount of $17,245.56.
Is there a second?
Second.
And that number for the accounts payable is big because of payments to the school districts?
Yeah, the lottery credits
Okay.
that were distributed.
There's a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable and the payroll. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item would have been communications, just in case Howard didn't show up in time for the annual meeting. So unfinished business, there is none. Next item is discussion possible action on temporary Class B retailer license to Hawes Shallak Center for Animals for their Hooves and Flights event held on May 31st, 2024. Administrator Green.
Sure, this event was held the last 2 years. I received no complaints. They have a bartender that is available who actually has a full bartender license for 2 years, so I have no issue with approval.
Right? No.
The application's complete and everything?
The
We're all good?
application is complete, yes.
Okay. I would look for a motion to approve the temporary Class B for Hawes.
Motion to approve temporary Class B retailer's license for Hawes Shallak Center for Animals and their Hooves and Flights event to be held 5/31/24.
a second.
Motion is second to approve the Class B license for the Hawes event on May 31st. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item, discussion possible action on awarding a construction contract for the 2024 road improvement project. Engineering, Barbo.
All right, you all should have received my letter to Chairman Kranek about the road improvement program. We had 3 bids this year. We opened those last Tuesday. The low bidder was Payne and Dolan at $534,239.30. The estimate that we had was about 586,000, a little over that. The budget for this that we have in the highway was 620,000, and that included a carryover from last year. That's why it was a larger amount. So there's always money that's set aside for Superintendent Roberts to do some miscellaneous road work. So that's not even in the bid part of it here. What we do when we have a lower bid like this and we have a budget is we can basically amend. We don't even amend. We allow the contractor to do additional work at the same bid price, and that's usually they're more than willing to do that at those prices. So what we would probably do in this case, we're doing a number of roads. We're doing Bryn Road, the third part of that. We've been working on that over the years. Sylvan Trail, Sylvan Court, Road DT, Norms Road, the first part of it, a portion of Thames Road, and then a portion of Kingsway. And so then we'd probably extend Kingsway. We wanted to extend it a little bit further, but I cut it back just to make sure we were under budget. I wasn't sure what the bid prices were going to be, but they came in good. And so we probably would just do additional work on Kingsway to extend it to some point, like to another road or something like that. We don't like to stop mid-block on that. Anyway, the bid prices are reasonable, and they were provided in good faith. So I'm recommending that the board award the contract to Payne and Dolan in the amount of $534,239.30.
I
Questions?
motion, yeah, I mean, I'm great with Payne and Dolan. I motion to award the contract to Payne and Dolan for $534,239, with the caveat that the extra money will be used to the additional projects per Tim's discretion.
The motion?
My motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Motion is second to award the contract to Payne and Dolan for the road improvement program in the amount of $534,239.30. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item was the discussion and possible action on the reappointment of John Schrader to the Fire Commission with a term expiring 4/30/2026. John is our representative to the Fire Commission. It's my understanding he's also the chair of the Fire Commission currently. I think he's doing a great job and committed and is digging in with LCFR and doing a great job. So I would like to see him reappointed. So I would ask for a motion to reappoint John Schrader to the Fire Commission.
I'll motion to reappoint John Schrader to the Fire Commission with a term expiring 4/30/2026.
A second.
Motion is second to reappoint John Schrader to the Fire Commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item, discussion possible action on the appointment of Supervisor Mahoney Ogden to the Pewaukee Lake Advisory Patrol Board. I know Joe Wolfel has done a great job representing the town, but Supervisor Mahoney Ogden currently does not have a extracurricular assignment as
More work.
as a board member, and I know that she's very passionate about Pewaukee Lake, and I think that it would be a great opportunity for her to help represent the town on the Pewaukee Lake Advisory Committee. So I look for a motion to appoint.
Absolutely. I motion to,
Hold on a second.
oh, sorry.
Say, as the person who's currently on the board, I guess my very important question to you, Supervisor Mahoney Ogden, is are you willing to commit to the town residents and the people that use the lake that you're not going to be looking to further restrict any use of boats or how they recreate on the lake that go above and beyond the current regulations and laws that are within the state?
Am I going to say it again, so please?
Commit to not pursue to restrict a residents' usage of their boats or how they recreate on the lake beyond the current state levels of the laws and regulations within the lake.
I will commit to observing what's currently allowed on our lakes. I'm very open to learning what else is going to be happening out there with legislation. So Does that answer your question? Of what's currently on there now, of course, but I think we also, I'm open to seeing what, you know,
Sure,
I know
I mean,
we've got different groups, so.
there's movements in multiple local jurisdictions of lakes to restrict certain boating activities, types of boats that are,
I'm going to call point of order, because this is just really on
Well,
the
I-
appointment, and we can have the discussion about,
well, if we've made the appointment and we have already made the action in the appointment, then we can't have that discussion. So I guess I would say if this is a discussion on the appointment, I'd like to further discussion on the appointment, or motion to table it and have a discussion further, and then we can,
I will allow the discussion, but let's keep it brief, please.
okay. I mean, that's all I'm asking, like, what I'm asking is, as long as, that you're not looking to further restrict beyond the state laws and regulations what our current boaters are able to do on the lake.
I
Well,
make
it's
a
not gonna be
motion
up
to
to
table
me.
the appointment of Supervisor Mahoney Ogden to the Lake Patrol Board. Making that motion. Respectfully.
Okay.
Well, since we're discussing it,
Well, there's a
Um,
motion
well,
on
I'm
the
motion-
table.
Okay.
I'm making a motion to
Okay.
table it, so,
well,
do we have a second?
There's not a second.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to table it. So,
I
There's no
second your
second.
motion.
right, so,
I second your motion.
Okay, there's a motion, a second to table the
Okay.
appointment of Supervisor Mahogany. Aye. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 The motion to table fails 3-2.
okay,
Because
I
I
mean,
would say I'm very happy to, for the appointment. I'm interested in it.
well, hold on, we haven't voted on the appointment yet. That was,
Well, I know, I'm just
Yeah.
giving you my comments because we
Supervisor
were
Mahoney Ogden
discussing.
has the floor.
We're just discussing, because you
Sure.
asked to discuss, so since I'm not appointed to anything, it's been tabled. I'm just trying to answer your questions.
No, it hasn't been
because-
tabled. The motion failed.
to table it.
The motion's
Yeah.
a table.
Right, table it, so.
Yeah, I think I ask because I've done this for 4 years. We've had good success for 4 years. We've had 3 years where we've given raises to the entire Lake Patrol. We've added an employee, we've added readiness, we've added an updated equipment, and we've done all that without an impact to the budget. And, you know, so I guess where I don't understand the difference in the consistency, because I'm here, I'm willing to do it, and I've done it for 4 years, and, you know, I guess I'm going to call out, like, where game playing is game playing. I think there's game playing with certain things, and I think a like, pull of this for no specific reason, other than because we don't have 5 different board appointments is, I don't know, not in the best interest of what we've already got going on with the Lake Board. But if you guys outvote me, that's fine. I'm not going to hold it against you, but I'm saying my piece because I don't think I don't see a reason on why it's happening.
Well, I will say that back a year ago, when the appointments were made, I had expressed interest that at some point, like, again, I got the impression, again, I was new to this last year, that I'd reappointed people at different times, and I had expressed then, I'd be happy to do that sometime, I'd be happy to serve. So perhaps that's just, I mean, I'm guessing why I was appointed, because I did volunteer to do it.
Well, I think you would do a wonderful job, Supervisor Ogden, and I will move to appoint Supervisor Mahoney Ogden to the Lake Patrol Board.
I will second that motion. All in favor of appointing Supervisor Ogden to the Lake Patrol Board, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Next item, discussion of possible action on the appointment of a town board representative to serve on the Plan Commission.
I was going to say, sorry, for the same reason I would oppose the change of me, I would support the consistent and current activity of Supervisor Michaels to be appointed to the town board representative on the Plan Commission. So, motion.
A motion.
Is that a nomination?
Nomination or a motion to appoint Supervisor Michaels to the town board Plan Commission as the town board representative on the Plan Commission.
Second. Discussion?
That we don't, I think I've mentioned this beforehand, I know we need to have one member, but we have it in our bylaws that we have two. I'm just clarifying, right? That's why we have two as opposed to one?
It's in the ordinance that states that the town chairman automatically gets a position, and then every April, there is a town board liaison or representative that is voted by the town board. So that's why there are two.
And not every town does it that way, but just the way our town has done it in the past?
Yeah, it's just the way that the ordinance has been written for all these years.
Okay, just asking for clarification. I'm fine and second Steve doing it. I just was curious to know. Some boards I don't see have two on it, so that's why I'm just asking.
There's a motion and a second to have Steve Michaels serve as the town board representative to the Plan Commission for the next year. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Next item, discussion possible action on the reappointment of Mike Cummings to the Plan Commission with a term expiring 4/30/2027. Mike was appointed last year. The ordinance states that you serve a one-year term, and then you are reappointed to a longer term.
I would motion to approve the reappointment of Mike Cummings to the Plan Commission with a term expiring April 30th, 2027.
My discussion on it is, unless we have to wait for a second, or can I add my discussion now?
Chairman.
I'll second the motion by Supervisor Michaels, and now we can have discussion.
I have nothing against Mike Cummings. I don't know if he's here. It's just, I think we know that we also have another qualified individual who has expressed interest. We have a lot going on, and I think after our last Plan Commission meeting and the lack of questions that came out, I just think it's smart to have, somebody who really is a builder or is an engineer. So I just, again, nothing against Mike Cummings. I just, and if he wants to continue to volunteer, there'll be other times in the future. But if we've got situations in front of us, what's your plan, Ed, for the future, if you're suggesting the appointment now?
There are going to be some openings coming up in the next year, and I'm open to getting a list and interviewing, people like Joe Schmidt. I appreciate your eagerness to serve, and we'll be, really considering when those openings come open towards the end of the year.
And in my same piece on the prior two, I think consistency without a reason to remove a board member is a good reason to keep them. They've done a good job, and I'm happy to look at anybody else presented, but I'm also not opposed to continuing someone who's there, willing, and able, so.
There's a motion and a second to reappoint Mike Cummings. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm
Oh.
opposed.
Opposed?
No.
Nothing personal.
Motion passes 3-2. Next item, announcements of planning items. There is not a town board meeting next week, April 23rd. It's canceled. The next meeting, the next Plan Commission meeting is Tuesday, May 7th at 6:30, and I believe that we need a town board quorum for that meeting. Is that what
Yeah, we have two public hearings for rezones, so we will need one other person.
On the
So I need-
7th?
Yeah, Tuesday, May 7th.
I can be
6:30.
there if needed.
I think I should be able to be there.
That's great.
You can take more than one, so.
Okay.
whoever wants to.
And then
We're not gonna fight.
the next town board meeting is going to be Tuesday, May 14th at 6:30. And if there's nothing else, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.